Hey folks, just wanted to take a quick second to welcome you to part 2 of our show with Brian and Darnell Moore. If you haven't had a chance yet, go back and listen to part 1. It's episode 79. We released it back on September 27th. So you can just go to the website or any of the app pages that you listen to and just scroll down, or you can search for Brian and Darnell Moore. Just wanted to say, once again, we appreciate everybody that's tuned in and listened here lately. We appreciate Brian and Darnell for this show. We're sorry that it took so long splitting it up. We just kind of got caught up in the whole, mess with Rocky Mountain stuff and just kind of rode that way for a couple weeks, but we're glad to get this one back out here. This is one we really enjoyed doing. Just wanted to give a shout out again to Rocky Mountain Burger Company. Thank them for everything they've done for us here in the past month or so, with the food and everything. We went down there a couple of days ago for Veterans Day, sat down with Emmett Bird, who you recognize from a handful of the episodes we've done here about our time in Iraq, and got a burger, had a beer, had a good time. So go down there and catch him at 467 Franklin Street in Rocky Mount. Good place to hang out before a show. Good place to just go get a beer, watch football, watch TV, hang out. You're always going to see somebody in there, and a lot of times you're going to see somebody in there that's been on this show before. It might be us, might be Paul Hall, might be Brian, might be anybody, but go down there and check them out. We certainly appreciate all that they've done for us. And also, starting next week, we're going to be adding, I hear you, buddy. So we're going to be adding a Patreon. We're going to be adding a Patreon subscriber show. So for about 30 minutes a week, Simon and I are going to get on there, and we're going to kind of talk about our week, talk about everything that we've kind of went over. Maybe some of the bigger things going to be uncut, uncensored, and you can find that at our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/getontap. And for just $3 a month, like I said, you can get all the episodes as soon as they're released, some of the ones we hold on to for a little bit, and you'll get this 30-minute thing. And we're going to start working on some other stuff. Just show our appreciation to everybody out there that does chip in and help, because every little bit helps. So we certainly appreciate all that. We certainly appreciate everybody tuning in, and I really hope you enjoy this episode. And and my little one says hi back there too. So God bless everybody. Enjoy.
A progressive or a fascist is not exclusive to being left-wing or right-wing. It's both. You can be a left-wing and a right-wing and a socialist fascist. And that's just a different concept that people can't grasp. Fascism is not exclusive to the right. Let me tell you that right now.
Well, even stepping back to Marxism, because I know amongst African Americans, Marxism has a whole different feel. The idea of Marxism is the idea for most African Americans, what's been built through is the idea that physical labor is equal to capital labor. So my hour of work is just as valuable as your truck. That's
collectivism.
And so if I can, and I think that's where the beginning of the thing is. And the second piece is Karl Marx wrote a letter to Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War saying that removing slavery is going to emancipate the labor of your white countrymen. This is a move forward. So amongst African Americans, Marxism has not always been seen as negative. Before we understood the concept of Marxism, Martin Luther King was called a Marxist consistently. So one of the things we know is when that term is thrown out, it's often used as a way to create a cohesive misdirection.
Absolutely. And
once we get into it, Marxism is almost impossible to actually do now.
It's by definition, it's so complex.
Yeah.
If anyone swings around and says to me, can you tell me what a Marxist is? No, I probably can't.
Most of the people throwing that term out can't.
Well, that's because the definition of Marxism is actually quite complex. But to describe it as anti-capitalist and collectionism is probably two good descriptives of Marxism. For this country, it is definitely something that we do not welcome.
The fascism scares me more than Marxism.
Well, the problem is with progressives, the progressives have become the current day fascists.
But
think about that.
The weapons we're wielding don't seem that they can create. If I say
the weapon of free speech,
right? What I'm going to do,
weapon of free media,
is
the
I'm
weapon of free thought.
Speaking. That's my weapon now. How does that make me a fascist?
It's not being able to compromise with an opposing opinion is really what fascism is about. You're having it my way or it's the highway.
Right.
I am.
Yes. So what are the modes that are being seen as left-wing fascism? Because I tell you, January 6th, for many people who would leave their state to go attack a capital, and that
Let's
feels
not call
completely
it attack.
different.
Let's not use the word attack because you've got to tone that narrative down. Because if you swing around, if it's an attack, then it would be coerced, it would be coordinated, and
there's evidence of those things.
To a certain extent, it wasn't. Well, who was the Antifa activist pushing the Air Force woman that was shot by the state capitol police officer through the window? She was the only person to die that day, and she was being pushed through that broken
by somebody
window.
attacking the Capitol.
Who was an Antifa, and he
may have called himself, but he was participating in a fascist activity at the time.
Okay, if we're going to talk about January 6th, why do we ignore May 29th?
What happened on May 29th?
May 29th, protesters came outside of the White House, I think on Pennsylvania Avenue. I think they firebombed a guard shack. They burnt down a church. I think over 100 police officers ended up being injured, and nobody. So I don't think
that was insurrection right there.
And January 6th wasn't nowhere near what that was, but that's all they talk about. Now, if you want to talk about one, we need to talk about the other. I personally think both are a waste of our time. I think both are just divisive little situations that were created by our favorite friends at the CIA and the FBI, where they put provocateurs in the mix of things. So both incidences, if you think one's awful, I think one's awful. I think both are a complete and total waste of time and energy, but we don't talk about May 29th. The news doesn't talk about May 29th.
I think there are two good reasons for that. The first, it was largely people from Washington, D.C. It's the same reason if people from Portland go burn down a place in Portland.
But it doesn't matter. Washington, D.C. is for all of us. It is the nation's capital. So you have a right to be there regardless if you're from Idaho or D.C. And we can't, who knows who I was there when they were burning things down. I mean, they were still burning down federal. Hey, look, I'm all about burning the federal government to the ground, so I have no issue with either, to be honest with you.
Did you say that out loud?
I don't care. I'm not. I do whatever you got to do, but I just want the perception to be fair for both sides. I want people to see that both sides were either justified or unjustified. But let's not mix it up here and pretend
there's a difference between poisoning your own well and then going to somebody else's and poisoning theirs. When you leave your state, and that's again back to us kind of looking at the Confederacy as if it was something great, is this idea of us coalescing to force the rest of the nation to make choices that just this area wanted, is what happened on January 6th. And that's different than people in D.C. gathering and getting rowdy and making stupid decisions. They did that in their own neighborhoods.
Yes, but they did that, but D.C. it's all of ours. That's where you go to complain. That's where you go because that's where your federal elected officials are. That's the hub. Mm-hmm. So that's where you would need to go. And when it comes down to that too, I don't think anybody should make decisions for us in D.C. I don't think anybody in Oregon or California or Florida, for that matter, should be making decisions for Virginia. I don't think anybody in Richmond should be making decisions for us here in Franklin County. So that's where I stand on the whole issue as far as that's concerned. Everybody there has a legitimate gripe. If they want to go and protest the government, I'm all about it. Let's just understand that the government is the ones that are suppressing us. And once we can do that, once we can figure out who the bad guys are, we're fighting the same battles. We're fighting the same. Joe Biden is no different than Donald Trump, who's no different than Barack Obama, who's no different than George Bush, who's no different than John McCain. They're all the same. They all have their own interests and minds. And let's just say, Barack Obama, he came into office and gave a ton of people hope. Mm-hmm. And by the end of his administration, we were more divided than we were when he started. Now, do I think that Barack Obama was a divisive individual? No. I think that he actually probably came in there with an idea to make a difference. I think when he got in there, he was set down by the same people that Donald Trump was set down by. I said, this is how we do things. You play ball, you'll be taken care of the rest of your life. We need you to do this. We need you to do that. And
Obama complied. Because why wouldn't he? I mean, the CIA and the FBI have a long history of taking out people that don't agree with them or
Well, my
who
question is
might
then-
ruffle their feathers.
Then what caused the division other than the fact that he was black?
Who's that?
Barack Obama.
The fact that he continued the wars, the fact that he continued to drone bomb people, he killed an American citizen without due process. That's an assassination. But I think the media and once he was out of office, they were expecting Hillary to be the one, and when that didn't go down, well, now Trump comes in, and maybe he does agree. Maybe he's all part of the plan. Maybe he's just another puppet in a long string of them, or maybe he did sit down and say, I'm not following this game. And now you see what happens. We get multiple impeachments, for things that Joe Biden was also accused, that he did. Trump was impeached for a quid pro quo, and Joe Biden, the same exact thing on camera, did.
With witnesses.
It did. It's on camera. You can find it. He sat there and told the Ukrainian government, we will not give you this aid unless you fire this prosecutor. Trump
Who was prosecuting his son.
Yeah, Trump,
who refused to prosecute his son.
yeah. So it's all the same thing. And I don't know why. And to your question, I don't know why it was more divisive after the fact. I really don't. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I just think that Obama was never in control, just like Trump was never in control, just like Bush was never in control. People in control are Raytheon and Boeing and all of these military industrial complex companies and pharmaceutical companies. They're the ones that pay the bills. Go back and look at John McCain. I would vote Obama 100 times before I'd ever vote McCain. But
Northrop Grumman.
But look at both of them. Go back and look when they ran against each other, the top 10 of their campaign contributors. 7 of the top 10 are equal in both. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Stanley, all of them, top 10.
Central bankers.
What does that tell you? It tells you that both of them are paid off, and whoever wins, they're going to be in their pocket.
And the industrial complex.
Yeah.
What if we are the problem? What if it's not?
We are the problem.
We're not.
We are the problem.
We're not the problem.
Right
We are the
now,
problem.
4 people at this table.
No, not
agree.
us. I'm talking just,
No, I think it is us. I think, but I think the beauty of us being the problem means that we can be the solution.
Bingo.
If we want money out of politics, let's all right now decide we will not vote for somebody who spends more than it costs than a year's salary to get the job. Your salary pays $100,000 and you spend $2 million to get the job, something's crooked.
Mm-hmm.
And we consistently allow our politicians to do that.
Well, they can compete in inside trading. Nancy Pelosi gets, just follow where they invest in, and you'll see where the money goes. They all of a sudden start investing in pharmaceutical companies a couple months before the pandemic hits. They all start investing in electric cars right before California makes it mandatory that 2035. These people are ahead of the game, and it's because they are put in position and they're given this money to stay in these positions so they continue to make decisions for the corporations and not for the people. And that's for white people, black people, Hispanic. That's all it is. And
now, here's the thing. We think about Nancy Pelosi. I'm not familiar with this, but if she goes back to her home state and says, hey, Californians invest in solar cars. And then she does her little thing and does her inside trading, but she gets all her countrymen, all her statesmen to also do the same thing. Well, they're going to reelect her.
That's not how greed works.
no.
If she wants to get reelected, she's got to make her population happy. Now, we're all angry because everybody in California got this huge kickback and we're all sitting here with our hands in our pockets. But shouldn't we be more concerned about our constituents not coming back and
Keep it
describing to
local.
us?
Yeah,
So if
absolutely.
we go back to keeping it local, then it comes back to us with the power. We can be in our school systems.
Yes, we can.
We can decide as a group, okay? We've got Democrats, we've got Republicans, we've got Libertarians. We're going to have a meeting once every 6 months, and we're going to say, if any candidate comes into Franklin County, spends more than the cost of a year's salary, we ain't going to vote for them. Not a one. They need to come in and promise to us, each group, that we're not going to do that. and then
Being
we'll vote
held
for you.
accountable.
Yeah, that's all we
Being
want is
able-
accountability. That's
Being
the only
able
thing.
to be fired.
We have to mark the accountability marker. We tend to put out feely things. We go, we want them to be a good politician. We want them to be smart with money.
They want to be a
want
blue
gas
dog
prices
Democrat.
low.
We want a GOP.
Right.
We want a rhino.
Right. And the thing is, who defines it? We can't hold somebody accountable when we've never asked for a certain marker. And we're out constantly saying we want better. We never define better. Gas prices are too high. What should gas prices be? And we're out fighting each other.
There's the biggest con job on the planet thus far.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, it's just accountability. Like what I mean, I've got to
There is
define
none.
purpose. I've got
There
to
is
define
none.
purpose. What I want
We've got to
is
decide
if there's a budget
what starts it.
and the school system is getting $1 million and they're $200,000 under budget, I don't want them going out there and just spending that extra $200,000 in excess for a bunch of garbage just because that means they'll get the $1 million again next year. Because if they only spend $800,000, they only get $800,000 next year. I want to stop this bureaucratic nonsense system that we have going on here where people want to spend money just so they can get it the next year. Our budgetary system is in complete disarray.
Oh,
the money is being mismanaged. It's
That's
going to
an
the wrong
absurdity.
places. And that's the long and the short of it. Government red tape, people lining the pockets of their buddies. It all goes back to all of that. And it's all there. It's all in black and white.
It is.
All we have to do is just stop fighting over the minuscule nonsense bullshit reasons and finally look up and who the problem is. And it's the government.
It's us. It is us.
Well, it's us for not holding the government
we're
accountable.
Too lazy.
Well-
Every dollar our school board has spent, our board of supervisors has spent, is categorized, colored, cut out, described in a boring
Yep.
30 to 50 page document.
And who reads it?
I read it once every 6 years because it doesn't change a lot. But I've got to say, for the most part, we kind of just undervalue ourselves. We've decided
We don't
our
think we
land
can make
isn't
a
worth-
difference.
We don't think our land. Well, we're cheapening ourselves for who we want to keep here. We've decided our land is not as valuable, that our houses don't need to be as new, that our infrastructure isn't as necessary, and that it's okay for us to dump refuge at 7 cents a pound. So we've got this idea that we are not as valuable, and we print it for ourselves every year in black and white, or actually we print it in color. Some of that red tape is so that we as citizens can get in there and say, wait a minute, why are we doing this?
But we're just not engaged.
We're
It's
lazy.
complicated. It's
Well,
difficult.
we're lazy. We're lazy too.
We
We're lazy.
are.
We
We
have
are.
we have our cell phones. We have our bread and circus, the NFL, college football, constant TV 24/7 with 1,000 channels, video games nonstop. That's
This
what they want. They
excellent
want they want a docile. They want a docile population. It's not going to question it. It's not going to sit there and show up. And you're right. It is our problem because we're not holding the people accountable like we should be. And I fear that eventually that's going to turn into, as me and Simon were talking about earlier, at some point in time, the only logical conclusion, if you can't work things out diplomatically and you're still at each other's throats, eventually it's going to turn to violence. And that's what we want to completely avoid, because all we're doing once again is we're going to be killing each other in the name of all these rich assholes at the top pulling the strings.
Yeah.
And we're getting
That's playing their
dangerously,
game.
we're getting dangerously close to that point in time.
Join the people without guns.
What's that?
The groups that go out and they're active and they protest, the people who are activists without weapons are the people who are going to make a difference without violence.
Don't you realize that the reason that keep the politicians honest is the Second Amendment?
It may very well be. But
I
if
believe-
you want to look at who's making a populist shift, because politicians may be afraid of guns, but they're deathly afraid of voters.
Yeah, but they're not, because they've already controlled that. They've played that game, and won. All right. So as far as voting is concerned, I look at that as a complete sham. The only thing that keeps people, and politicians in particular, honest is knowing that how many millions of weapons are out there, and that they can't dick with us, because at some point
And
it's going to meet the road. And that's what the Second Amendment is about, which is about fighting tyranny as a domestic and foreign threat. So I'm in that respect, I am 100% behind the Constitution to its fullest extent. It was crafted brilliantly. And not
I agree.
You don't take little snippets out and say, oh, but we've got the right to bear arms. That's not what the Second Amendment is. Look at the Federalist Papers. Now, I'm still wading through the Federalist Papers. Good Lord, they had to sell the federal government through the Federalist Papers, but they sold it brilliantly. But we are so far from what was sold as to what we now have as a federal government, that it doesn't, there's no reflection on it. Our founding fathers, if they were to turn up on the doorstep today and look back and say, well, you really buggered up the federal government and your constitutional rights and what the federal government is supposed to do, how on earth did you get here? This is an Englishman saying this. Right, figure it out. I was the enemy at one point. Now I understand why the Constitution was put in place, and it was put in place by some very intelligent people. And if we don't go back to the Constitution in its purest form, and that is the basis of the foundation of the country, I think we're in big trouble.
Yes, I think I completely agree. Is pushing ourselves back to the Constitution. I think that leads to another kind of beautiful race interjection. I mean, this idea that this document written by slave owners is probably the best description of rules to never be enslaved.
Absolutely it is. And don't think that the enslaved people didn't make the country what it was. Mm-hmm. All right? Because the industrial powerhouse of the North was met by the agricultural powerhouse of the South. And the only reason the powerhouse of the South was an agricultural powerhouse was down to slavery. And that is... And that's a bitter pill to swallow.
To say agricultural, it was because we were able to grow in the southern areas cash crops,
exactly,
non-food production. Most of the food still came out of the north, which was a difficult.
Right. But nonetheless, these were commercially viable products that allowed for the bankrolling of the United States of America.
But I think that gets into a real big schism for the Second Amendment. I think there's always been a constant fear for African Americans of violence.
You've got the same right as I have.
I do. But here's the thing I know. Picking up a gun will never make me safer in this country.
It will in your home.
It will not. What we've discovered is if African Americans are involved in shootings, stand your ground. I think Trayvon Martin's probably the best instance I can offer. Why wasn't Trayvon Martin ever offered the same stand your ground opportunity or defense? He was within walking distance of his neighborhood. He was being followed, but it was not something we ever thought about. Well, having a gun does not make you safer as an African American. So the idea that guns somehow create democracy doesn't, as a community, jive with our life.
But it should. And think about where gun control in this country is the strictest. It's in big major urban areas where a lot of black individuals live at: Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, D.C. The rural areas, they can sit there and, they think, well, the population isn't great enough. But, Ronald Reagan himself was a big proponent of gun control back in, the 70s in California because of the Black Panthers. Mm-hmm. Hey, I say arm every Black Panther out there. Arm every white person, black person, Hispanic. An armed society is a polite society.
Well, this actually comes back on a little bit of a circle. If you, oh dear, I can't believe I said that. Shoot me. Edit that, for God's sake.
You're going to circle back around, Saki?
We're going to circle back around on this one. Circle back around, Saki. Thank you very much. But doesn't that come back to as a BLM issue, and the Black Lives Matter issue? And I understand the basis of that formation 100%. Why weren't they preaching that in Chicago? Why weren't they preaching that in Baltimore? Why weren't they preaching that in these inner cities where the black on black shootings, and this is the issue that I've got, one of the big issues I've got with BLM is they ignored that, and that was the biggest black on black issue.
They ignored it the same way that breast cancer awareness ignores colon cancer awareness.
It's case in point.
Not their issue.
There
are, I can name you 10 organizations that concentrate on inner city crime in Chicago, and
they're failing miserably. But where was BLM when they should have been held accountable?
That's not their issue.
Yes, it is. Black Lives Matter. Just because it was black on black doesn't make it less black.
Here's the thing.
Right?
Here's what I would say. In those instances where a black person shoots another black person, was the black person prosecuted?
Probably not.
Very likely, yes. If that person was caught, they were prosecuted. And what Black Lives Matter is often saying is... Are you seeing
that in inner city? Because this is just hearsay.
What I'm saying is when African Americans face justice, we face it in a different way. The people that are out doing the shooting, when they catch them, they go to jail. Black Lives Matter, we're not going to go out and protest to get that guy out. All right? But if that person was not put into jail, yes, Black Lives Matter would be out. Because something...
You can't be selective with the tag BLM.
It does not matter.
You can't be selective and have that tag.
Anytime an African American is not offered justice in the same way that the population is, that's when there's an issue for Black Lives Matter.
I couldn't disagree with you on that point.
And I think it then starts to extend to us looking or allying with other groups. Are women getting the same opportunity to speak up about instances that affect them? Are Asian communities? And I think that's one of those things where we kick the door open. But the question would be, when somebody is shot, so black on black crime, the person doing the shooting, do the police bring them in and go, oh, well, you got gunshot residue. You know what? Go home for 3 weeks and we'll process it you next time.
I hope not.
That's when Black Lives Matter would show up, because that's when it would become an issue of the courts not supporting the victim in that particular instance, not doing its job of protecting its citizens.
Right. But you see where that narrative doesn't fit the BLM narrative, and where we have issues. And I say we, I mean, good Lord, I'm not swinging around and saying all white folks have. No, not at all.
But it is a common theme, this idea that, like, where are you for black on black violence? And the place we are is...
Honestly, it's a made-up term.
Is their prosecution.
Whites kill more whites than other ethnic groups. It's an environmental issue.
Yeah. I don't disagree, but they're not making the environment better. They're not doing anything. Those places have been shit for 50 years and they hadn't got any better. And that's the problem.
But, yes. And
does that not throw the conversation off at a tangent? We can all have counter viewpoints and back stuff up with statistics, and I just, we got to get down to the truth.
Yes.
And a little bit of humanity behind it, and say none of it's acceptable.
Why are those neighborhoods so dangerous?
Because they don't care about them.
What is now?
They don't. Here
comes a bomb drop. I have lost all faith and credibility in the Department of Justice.
Okay.
I'm going to leave that one wide open. I'm not even going to make a statement.
How are you not at Black Lives Matter rallies regularly? That is
because I find it divisive within your own community.
It should be divisive for anybody who thinks the Department of Justice is on the right track. You need to create a divide with those folks.
Yeah, they got to go.
That's what we're asking you to do. That's the divide we're creating. We also agree the Department of Justice is not effectively solving crimes, searching for crimes, or supporting the citizens of this country.
Absolutely
That's what
not.
Black Lives Matter is about. There are multiple justice systems. Affording bail should not lower your chances of being found innocent by 40%.
Well, we know there's multiple layers of justice out there when it comes to bail, paying for an attorney, getting an attorney appointed for you, whether the DOJ's after you, the FBI's about to kick your door down. We all know.
This is Black Lives Matter. These statements are Black Lives Matter, and they are divisive.
But let me be clear about this. I support our local sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
I support our sheriff's department, because they are dealing with... We got to remember this, all right? You got to remember these guys are doing a job.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I think they're doing more than they should. I think we can all agree that.
I think so too. But they are dealing with some of the biggest arseholes and the dregs of society. Yes. And when one of them may be a little bit abrupt at a traffic stop or whatever it may be, just remember what they're dealing with in a day in, day out basis. And it's constant. Just I've got a domestic here. I've got this. I've got someone driving like a lunatic. I've got some drunk has gone and turned his truck over on Darlene Knob or what the hell ever. They've got to deal with crisis after crisis after crisis. And our sheriff's department needs our support, not our defunding.
What does defunding look like? Currently, how do we fund it? Are we sending extra funds for salaries? Are we sending extra funds to handle that mental health issue because they're dealing with people on their worst day consistently?
Well,
or are we sending the money for guns and
mental
bullets?
health's another issue entirely, because we know the mental health system in probably the Western world has been ignored. They've shut it down.
Yes.
We talked about this on the last conversation I had. I'll repeat it because it's rather amusing. That I had at least 3 mental hospitals around the Epsom town in southwest of London, and we would come in, and on a Saturday they'd be let out, and it was a market town. They'd close the streets down, the market would be up, they'd have the stalls, market would be running, and on a Saturday morning they'd release certain members of these mental institutions. And we go in there, and I've said before, I mean, shame on me for doing this, but we go in there, sit at the pub, have a couple of drinks, and watch these lunatics licking lampposts. You know, it's a dreadful thing to say, but that's what happened. Those mental institutions no longer exist. We are not treating mental issues medically. We are treating them pharmaceutically.
If we do
and
that,
then the cops are having to deal with non-medicated people that have lost their marbles. And I'm talking about that.
Defund the police is the agitated way of saying
We got a problem.
Fund mental health.
You know, I
we've
think
got to stop Swiss Army knifing our police
in
officers.
Police officers.
They're not everything. All
they're
the
not
time.
social workers.
They're not social workers.
You know?
Well, they're also in that same breath, they're also not soldiers patrolling the streets of Baghdad. So why are we militarizing our police the way we are? I'm not about these MRAPs and these armored vehicles and police showing up to kick in a door for some guys selling weed like they're getting ready to raid a house in Baghdad, yet we've got 20 cops standing in a hallway putting hand sanitizer on while kids are getting freaking murdered in a classroom right down the hallway. 20 of them can't go in and take out one person. You know, if we can't get one of those guys to be brave enough to say, I'll put my life on the line, then what the hell are you doing? That's the problem. The police are militarized, and then they don't step in when they're supposed to. So, yeah, I'm all about defund the freaking police. Defund anybody out there that's not doing their correct job. Defund the militarization, and defund these chiefs of police in these cities. People need to understand what you're seeing on your TV isn't everywhere in the country. New York City, Chicago, LA, they are militarized police. They are patrolling neighborhoods they don't live in, they don't care about, and they don't care if they shoot somebody. They don't care if they shoot a black person or a Hispanic person. I mean, I'm not saying they don't care. What I'm saying is it's not their community. At the end of the day, they're probably going to get backed up by the police force because the New York City police force is bigger than militaries in the world. All right, deputies here, Franklin County, they are held accountable by voting. They're held accountable by a sheriff. We know where they live at. We know that they're a part of our community. So, for one, people need to understand not all police are the same. Some are held to different standards, but regardless of whether it's a deputy or a town cop or a city cop, the militarization has got to go. Showing up like you're in Baghdad to somebody's house for a drug warrant has got to go. You know what I mean? That's how we get these problems. That's how, what's her name? Brittany, in Louisville, the young lady that got killed. Now there was,
shot into the house.
Yes, they shot into the house. Her boyfriend shot back. He got shot. You know, who cares if they were dealing drugs? Who cares if they got leads into that house? Why were you going and serving a warrant in the middle of the night, banging on the door and then kicking it in over drugs? It's unnecessary. End the drug war, for one, and that'll be a big, big, big relief on the criminal justice system as it is. And maybe we can go out here and focus on rapists, and we can focus on murderers, and we can focus on the dregs of society and figure out a way to get the mental help and the drug help for these people if they need it, and stop prosecuting this stuff, because it just gives cops a reason to come screw with people. And at the end of the day, you know, it's the black communities and the poor communities that they're going to target. And that's just an economic thing. They're going to hit Doe Run just as soon as they are wherever, you know. But I mean, let's be very clear about this. I am very thankful to be in Franklin County with the sheriff and the sheriff's deputies, that I think do an outstanding job, and they are thin on the ground. Now, what I don't want to see, and thankfully my driveway is long enough, is 87,000 IRS agents thinking they're going to kick my door in whilst they're wearing a moniker of IRS police, because that they're not. So let's draw the line. You know, they are not cops.
We're IRS agents. You don't have anything to fear. They're not tough people. I don't know who this 80,000 tough guys.
Well, they're training them, and there's allegedly been budgeted for 87,000 new IRS agents. It blows my mind.
We're not even meeting our quota for armed service personnel.
Here's the statistic. Here's the statistic for IRS agents. They are looking to employ more IRS agents than the combined states of National Guard in the United States.
What is their PT test going to look like?
And who do you think they're going to go after? They created this under the guise of, we're going to send these 87,000 agents to go in here and take care of the millionaires and the billionaires. How many billionaires in this country? Maybe a few hundred, maybe 1,000. You need 87,000 agents for that? No, they're going to be coming in and they're going to say, well, Darnell, you sent your brother $150. What was that for? That's what they're going to be investigating. Or Simon, you sent somebody $200.
Don't ask me to bend over.
That's what they're created for. They're not created to stop the millionaires and the billionaires. They're coming to screw over people like
small businesses,
right here.
entrepreneurs.
Exactly what it is.
Quite frankly, people that are fed up of paying illegal taxation by an unconstitutional federal whatever department they choose to name themselves.
Which still seems like, how are we not all at Black Lives Matter events? This idea of
you've got to reinvent yourself.
Yeah,
you've got to reinvent yourself
because we need you to show up.
Well, the long and the short of it is,
us create this new invention. I can't build this house that fits you perfectly. I need you to step in and pick up a hammer. How do I get you into the BLM movement?
Because right now the perception is BLM is in the cities and they're responsible for burning these cities down, for the riots, for this and this and this, and that's what the media portrays, and that's what the media puts out there. And I don't I don't believe the media.
But we got to get off that media.
But the problem is that is a bigger hurdle than we can anticipate. So you can either stay under the Black Lives Matter moniker and continue to fight that battle against the media that doesn't want you to succeed, or we find a way to come and rebrand together and say, community for Franklin County, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's black or white, because the media is not going to allow us to bring ourselves together and unite under certain monikers. And that's just the long and the short of it.
All you've got to do is look at Franklin News Post, and they will not print certain articles. I'm well aware of this. I know it's a game. And Roanoke News is exactly the same. If you come up with certain articles of a political slant, you ain't got a chance in hell of them printing it. And that's local. All right? So we got to get away from that crap to start with.
Yeah,
but
get away from the media. Like, look, I don't support the NRA. I don't support Wounded Warriors, veterans. I don't support any of these big organizations because eventually absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when people start seeing that almighty dollar at the top and they start saying, well, man, look at all these millions coming in here. Let's go buy this fancy stuff. Let's give us an increase in salaries. The money is not trickling down. You can go and find these things on websites and it tells you exactly how much of these nonprofits that you invest in, how much money they actually reinvest into their cause. And most of the time it's under 10 or 15% every single time.
I don't know. I think we touched on this last time with the media has been an ally to black people because.
But has it been an ally to black people to promote a divisive slant?
I think it can be turned into a divisiveness, but I think that when certain people are confronted with actual truths, they don't want to acknowledge them. Since the early 80s, late 80s, early 90s, NWA was talking about F the police. Why? Because of police brutality.
Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
Happy police.
All you've got to do is turn on YouTube and you can see Bruce brutality across the board.
It took YouTube.
And
the singers couldn't do it.
When did the majority of whites join the Black Lives Matter?
That's alternate media, though. That's not corporate
when they saw
media.
The George Floyd tape. It was in their face. The media put that out there, and people were able to get a taste of what we've been telling you.
Yes, but at the same time, they also why is it that certain cases and certain incidences are promoted nonstop and certain ones aren't? You know, there was a white gentleman in Phoenix, Arizona, who was executed on body cam as he's crawling down the hallway begging for his life and saying, please don't shoot, please don't shoot. And he goes to, like, as he's on the floor crawling, goes up to pull his pants up because they're falling down, and the police execute him. You know, if the police are in the wrong, they need to be in the wrong, whether it's black, white, or anybody. And I think that's the problem people have is the media. They focus in on certain situations and they completely ignore other ones because it's pushing a narrative. And I think we can all see that the media is, I mean, they're all a conglomerate. Most of them are owned by the same people. Most of the news stations, and that's Fox is garbage. You know, CNN is, they're all garbage. They're all pushing a narrative that is being created by a certain handful of people, no matter what the end is. Yes, I agree with you 100% that the media did help a case like George Floyd, and that's exactly what needs to be done. What I'm saying is do it for every single case out there, no matter the race of the person, no matter the creed, no matter the religion. Yeah, if there's a Muslim person out here being persecuted, we need to know about that. But they don't do that. They pick and they choose, and that's for both sides. But this is the same media that all, think about when they all can come together. Think about when the media can come together.
They don't want to do that.
Well, no, but they do. When it comes to bombing other countries, when it comes to going into Iraq, when it comes to bombing Afghanistan, you know, the only time the left-wing media ever gave Trump any kind of accolades is when he bombed Syria. They said this is the first time he's been presidential. So they can all come together and agree on something when it all benefits everybody, and it can unite us to the point to where we will go along with the foreign wars. But when it comes to domestically, do everything they can.
Yeah, but I can't sit here in front of you guys and you and say that the George Floyd narrative and optic was what it was presented by the mainstream media. That guy was no saint, all right? He was jacked up on God knows what.
Well, he was an American whose rights were taken away.
But
that's what upsets me.
But I'm not going to swing around and say
I don't see
that didn't happen.
I don't see the relevance.
Well, there is a relevance because the mainstream media.
We all did shitty stuff in the past.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm saying the mainstream media swung round and made him out to be a saint when he wasn't. I think that the basis of what we had on camera with the guy kneeling on his neck, right, was more than sufficient. Okay. To swing round and then make him this bloody saint was the biggest load of crap out. And the mainstream media adds to that divisiveness because now there's people saying, well, hang about. He was jacked up on cocaine. He spent more years in prison. He had battery. He had this. He had God knows what else. And it's going to force that divisive line.
I think if you allow it to.
If you allow it to. But let's think about that. When you're presented that, what are you going to look at and say, you know what, the cops may have had a good idea. He was a big dude. He wasn't complying. And he's got a rap sheet as long as your arm, jacked up on meth, God knows what else. And he just leant on his knee. Well, it sucked for him and his family. I'm not disputing that. It was an illegal murder. The guys have been prosecuted for it. But the narrative that the mainstream media presented in making him out to be a saint and putting up a statue and murals all over the place, quite frankly, was bloody revolting for the people that knew the truth. That he had a rap sheet. Well, they did
the same thing for al-Baghdadi after they executed him. Yeah,
but you can't have it both ways.
The headline was "Notable Scholar Killed." He was a madman. You know, he murdered tons and tons of people.
He was a Joseph Mengele.
I feel like, as a black person, if I was to get murdered today, they're going to find some picture of me from 1995 where I have a do-rag on and possibly smoking a cigarette.
Or on the other hand, if you're Trayvon Martin, they find a picture of you when you're 13 years old as opposed to 19, so you look like a little kid, so you garner more of that sympathy. They use it in both directions. George Floyd did not deserve to die that day. He deserved to be prosecuted and see justice like anybody else. What went on that day was unnecessary, and I'm glad that they exposed it for what it was, and I hope it starts bringing to light some questions we can all ask. But just as much as he was deserving of his constitutional due process rights, so was that 16-year-old American who was drone bombed in Yemen by Obama's orders. So let's call a spade, and let's say, hey, everybody making these decisions are all guilty of not really giving a crap at the end of the day. And everybody deserves it. Even that man in Yemen, in a country we weren't even at war at, they drone bombed a cafe and killed multiple people. Why? because his dad was a bad person. That man was an American citizen. He deserved the same due process that George Floyd did, and he didn't get it. So until we can stop arguing over this person and not getting their due process, let's look at the fact that they don't want to give any of us. And if they could probably drop a bomb and murder all of us right now for another 2% increase in their stock prices, they would do it. And that goes for any of them. I don't care. Anybody that's in any kind of power at the top, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Look how divided our opinions are with 4 people around the table on our perspective on this. That should disturb us all. That we've been motivated by a narrative and the mainstream media that draws us to different conclusions. Now, that's a psyop.
Yeah, Fox and CNN, they send things out separately. Fox will send out, they'll send out a link, and it'll have a completely different headline, like something to do with the Trump. CNN sent out one that said such and such confirms on the stand that Trump did this. And then the Fox headline says, he alleges that Trump's did this and didn't, you know what I mean? Like these are conflicting forces that are all feeding us, and we're all on our own certain team here, and everybody needs to get away from the team mentality. This isn't the NFL. This is not the Redskins and the Cowboys. We should stop rooting for red and blue and realize that the red and the blue are both manipulating us on the same field. And they're both using the media against us. They do it to us, or not to us because I don't watch Fox News, but people who you all are trying to reach, conservative Americans. Yes. Fox lies to them every single day. And on the other side of it, you get all those people saying, well, CNN lies to you every single day. We can both agree that the media is lying to us, but we can't agree that our side is lying to us. We all should know this. We should know that they're all full of complete and total shit.
Well, CBS, I heard this morning, and it made me chuckle. And I'll take a little bit of self-indulgence here, if I may. The funeral of Queen Elizabeth was yesterday, and all the mainstream media folks were following that, because they weren't following it because they love Queen Elizabeth. They were following it because it was a historic event. All right. So how did CBS turn it off at 9:00 yesterday morning? Now, they got murdered by Twitter, but they decided that showing, what was it, some game show or other, was more important than representing a historic event. Whether you like Queen Elizabeth or not was irrelevant. That was a historic event. All right, the pomp and pageantry, all that good stuff, great, super, love it. As an Englishman, certainly. But CBS decided to play a game show at 9:00, and they completely missed the point. Now, that blows my mind. So this is the decision-making that the mainstream media makes as to what you can and can't receive. I find that quite disturbing. And CBS got absolutely butchered for it, and quite rightly so.
I'll say, my wife was glued to the TV watching it. Normally she watches CBS, and I'm sure that in this instance, she probably changed the channel to
Oh, I bet she did.
whoever was broadcasting.
Yeah, but isn't that a decision that is so out of the norm that's taken by the mainstream media to throw a TV show on instead of a historical event when everybody else showed it? Now, take away the fact that it's another monarchy, whatever.
Yeah.
It was a historical event, but CBS chose to throw on a game show. Good luck, CBS, by the way.
Well, I think this highlights, one of the I think there's a clear schism. African Americans weren't angry at the George Floyd video because we saw it. Right. We were angry because many of us have been approached by police. What was, if we think about George Floyd's constitutional rights, the probability that bill was fake, was that probability high enough to warrant removing his Fourth Amendment rights to be secure in his person? Because that's what arresting him. So it's this idea of comply with the police, be arrested, and then let the justice system take care of you. A justice system we don't trust.
No, I'm in complete agreement with you.
So when you looked at it, you said, well, I don't like how the media is portraying this. But for most of us, it wasn't a portrayal of the media. It was seeing live something we had been engaged in at some aspect of our lives.
Well, yeah, like Freddie Gray, he should not have been arrested and put in handcuffs over untaxed cigarettes. He should not have been arrested and put. Now, granted, maybe they thought George Floyd. I don't know a bunch about the case. Maybe they thought he was out of control and they needed to subdue him because he was on drugs.
A bill.
But a bill is no reason to arrest somebody.
counterfeit.
It should be a ticket and a summons to court. The same thing for an untaxed cigarette. There's no reason. And yeah, that is the problem. That's a huge problem.
But how do we have this emotional tie? We have an emotional tie to it. It's very few African Americans who will tell you this was a problem, his Fourth Amendment rights. Most of us will just say, that was racism. So we've got this problem on our end where we're having trouble saying to you, here's our problem. But on your end, you're saying the problem is what we're fed by the media doesn't align with what you're saying.
No, I just think the media is
get you with
manipulative altogether.
It may be, but
we're being
for
played.
Us, for us,
we're both
not
being
being played by the media.
And that's where the divide
We're
is.
living in those instances where we immediately identify with Zimmerman, not because he looks small in the picture, is because we have been followed in places where somebody believed we didn't need to be.
But in the Zimmerman case too, though, they did manipulate a lot of that. Like his 911 call, when they played it on the news, they asked him to describe the young man, and he said, "Hey, tall young man, hoodie, jeans, whatever it was." And the 911 operator said, "Is he white or black?" And he said, "He's black." Well, the news came back and cut all of the questions out, and all you heard was, I'm following around this young man, 6'2", hoodie, he's black. They completely cut out. They completely cut out the question, and that is manipulative. That is manipulative.
I'm following him. You need to stop.
Yes, and I don't disagree with that.
The most important part.
I don't disagree with that. But why, if that was the case and that's what it needed to be stood on, then why did they have to cut out that part of the audio?
But how do we?
Why did they do it?
How do we get the white community in Franklin County to come to us and say, "Listen, what's going on with Zimmerman? What's going on with George Floyd?" Instead of saying, "I'm getting conflicting, divisive pieces from media." We need you to seek out
the local media we have won't print anything that is contentious because there's a narrative that they're controlling, and we got to get away from that.
Yes,
we got to get away from that.
A lot of times it feels like what and many conservatives are asking to be reprinted is a narrative they're pulling. There's these terrible riots out in
Oregon,
Seattle, or Oregon.
Yeah,
you weren't there. Why would you even concern yourself? People of Oregon got together and burned down this building. Well, they may have hated whoever was in that building. If you get 800 people in your town to burn down this government building,
it was consistent and it was civil riot. Okay, so when it comes to civil order, you've got to use that as a gauge as to what could be happening around you. And I don't think there's anything.
This is where we got to get to that anti-Confederate mindset. We got to let those states navigate themselves.
Well, now we're talking about states' power.
Yeah.
Right. And
I'm
the
in
Confederate
agreement.
Constitution was absolutely about removing states' power.
Well, I firmly believe in the states regaining their state power from federal government and putting the federal government
We're gonna have
back.
to get away from some of the Confederate mindsets. And I
Is
think
it a Confederate mindset, though? I don't think it is. I think a lot of folks would believe and support the state taking back a lot of its financials, even to the county.
Well, that was what Roe versus Wade getting overturned was all about. It was all about giving the power to make these decisions back to the states. And most of the states that abortion was already legal and up till however long, none of that changed. And granted, it's going to change in other places, but it was given back to the states.
Did you really open that point of
I don't want to.
discussion on 951?
How do you understand the constitutionality of Roe v. Wade?
It's unconstitutional.
Unconstitutional.
There is.
So the idea that we can't prosecute any abortions because the right to privacy between a doctor and a woman is so solid, there's no way to know it even
not
happened.
any abortions.
Well,
I mean,
We couldn't prosecute
what
any.
happened to safe, legal, and rare?
Is the right to privacy between a doctor and a patient constitutional?
Here we have a problem.
Is it protected by the Constitution, or can doctors divulge information about American
Right. So
citizens?
here comes the problem.
Okay.
There is, and it's comparable in the way in which we garnish information to give you federal clearance to purchase a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's a good one, you're going to like this. If we were able to establish that someone was mentally incapable of bearing or holding the right to bear arms,
red flag style laws.
I'm not talking about red flag,
Oh, okay.
because red flag is something completely different. That's a complete
I
abomination.
apologize.
And it's there. It's legislated. If you are mentally incapable, you forego your right to buy and purchase firearms and hold them. They cannot back that up legally because of those HIPAA laws. So any reference to your medical status, if you're taking happy pills, if you've got anxiety, in my mind, here comes something I'll get slated for this, is you shouldn't be holding a firearm in your possession.
Right. And now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned, we can have doctors report that information to the government.
Is that the case?
As far as I understand, Roe v. Wade created the question was, does a woman's right to privacy
it's not
within
privacy.
her body, is it strong enough to prevent the government from investigating? Is it a rotten fruit?
You know,
So if the government, like, I can't know.
that's an interpretation on your part.
How could I even know that an abortion happened? If the doctor
Well, hang about the law took Roe v. Wade and trashed it.
which means
That it's down to the
if I
state
need,
legislator.
if I need to have the states investigate whether or not the four of us are vaccinated, there's no longer a right to privacy.
No, they didn't overstretch that bounds. What they did was put the right of abortion into the state legislature. They didn't. They did not say or ban or banish abortion. They said this is a state's right.
Right. It is.
And back
so
to
now
like
the
what you
state, there's no longer a federal protection to your. There's no longer a federal constitutional protection.
There should never have been.
There should never have been a constitutional protection between your doctor and your
No,
right to
that's
privacy.
not what they were saying. That wasn't about the doctor.
That was what Roe v. Wade's argument was.
But now think about the Wade argument and that she made this up. Okay,
Which part?
man, you're going to have to draw back on some brain power here. What was the contentious part that
I
Wade
think
swung around?
she claimed that she was raped and she wasn't.
claimed that she was raped and she wasn't.
But none of that would come into play into the legal arguments. Because the question is her
would.
right to privacy? Is your because
HIPAA laws will override it.
per state. So if our state decides, and how comfortable are you with our state constitution? Is our state constitution strong
needs to
enough
be strengthened.
where you feel, I no longer need federal protections?
I don't want federal protections.
I don't. That's crazy to me. I love constitutional protections. The
Constitution is sufficient. The Constitution is sufficient. The Constitution
but it
there
no
was
longer
designed.
protects you
Yes, it does.
between you and a doctor. Under what statute?
Under the HIPAA laws.
Are HIPAA laws? How are they constitute? Like where
That's
they
a federal law.
argued
You cannot disclose. Right, I'll give you the example. My daughter was asked by a teacher if she had been vaccinated. That teacher broke her HIPAA laws by asking that very question. I made it up and had a little conversation with the school administrator and said, by the way, you do realise you broke federal HIPAA law by asking if my daughter was vaccinated.
Why have so few people been prosecuted if it's against the law
For what?
for breaking that HIPAA violation?
Because it's a very hard law to prosecute.
Which means it may not offer adequate protections.
Well,
But
if you want to talk about legal process and what you can
now
process,
dissipated.
hang about. If you're talking about laws that you can and cannot process, the system's broken. I mean, let's not be specific about it.
Well, we have to be specific. If we're not
Well, the
specific,
system's
what
going to
can we
pick
fix?
winners and losers. They're going to go
Yes.
after who they want to go after, and
we-
they're going to
we
let who
recently
go.
picked one.
Yeah.
And one of the ones we picked is we said we are.
It's
no
a stacked
longer-
deck. It's a
But
stacked deck.
We control the deck. We,
No,
the people,
unfortunately, we don't, because the federal government has overreached the state law and governance of the state. They
Yes.
have the
It's
stick.
part of the supremacy clause. Our Constitution has that built into it. The Federalist Papers sold the idea of federalism.
Absolutely,
is
they
that
did
sale.
under very,
Yes.
very restricted guidelines about what the federal government could and couldn't involve themselves in. They have so overstepped those founding principles. They bear no reflection to the Federalist Papers in any way, shape, or form.
And some of
absolutely
it couldn't
not at
because
all.
we've moved so far as a country.
Moved in what direction?
I think for the two of us, in a very positive direction, compared to the restrictions my mother had.
That you
compared
can
to the
you can well
restrictions
yeah,
my
hang on, you can go
grandmother
back
had.
you can go back over even English history
Yeah.
and say the Victorian period where we had sweatshops and God knows what
Yes.
else. I understand that, but you can hark back on history and say how badly I've been treated. What about now?
Yes. How far have we come?
You've come a long way.
We have.
We've all
but
come a
it's
long
no
way.
reason to stop pushing for further.
Yeah, what,
we
more
should
federal,
be-
more
we should be
federal
a better-
government.
We should be. Listen,
I can't promote more federal government. We
I
got
love-
way too much of it.
I love the constitutional protections. Yes, I would love to see an additional amendment to the Constitution that not just limits slavery, but removes it. I would love to see
We have
our Constitution.
constitutional protection, HIPAA laws. Yes, that woman's privacy between that doctor is 100% protected,
but not by the Constitution any longer.
but it was never protected by the Constitution.
That's
It was
what
never an
Roe v.
amendment, though. It was not an amendment. It was just a law.
It was an observation by the justice, and that's what. Our
But it
justice
wasn't an
was set up to
amendment.
do.
So, but you're still protected by HIPAA
And
laws.
so that
but,
may be the next step.
But, but when it comes to abortion, it's not just the woman and the doctor. It's also that unborn child that's in her stomach that some people and a lot of people believe also have rights. You know what I mean? I mean, do you believe there are strength in numbers? Okay, well, since Roe v. Wade was implemented, I think 50 million black babies or more have been aborted. Now, think about the numbers you could have right now, and think about the voices and that whole 13% nonsense that would be broken away, and y'all would be more around 30 or 40%. You would have a bigger voice. So it's my belief that abortion is being pushed to keep poor people down, and black population makes up a lot of the poor people, and it's a lot of the white poor people too. And now it's just a lot of people who use it as birth control. Look, you have a morning after pill you can take right now if you have sex and you think you might be pregnant. You have contraception. You have condoms. You have all kinds of ways to avoid getting into the diversiveness of killing an unborn child. And I think that's what it boils down to. I don't think anybody really had a huge problem if somebody was raped and coming to that, even me. I think every life is special. And maybe that rape person might end up being, the child that was born might end up being somebody who cures cancer. But I can't speak for that woman. I don't know what she wants to do or put up with. But all I know is we have means to avoid unwanted pregnancy. Why do we need abortion when it's killing tons and tons and tons of our youth and people that could end up making changes in this world? Like that's where my conundrum is.
Right.
And I know, us having these conversations the last two times we've doing it, the one thing I appreciate more than anything is the fact that we can be candid.
Yeah.
So me being candid, I can't understand why a lot of black people or anybody would support abortion when your community has been targeted above everybody else's.
I mean,
I'll offer you two.
abortion is not a contraception. All right.
I agree.
Now, there's another flip side to that as well. For those that voted Democrat and a Christian, you can be fat, you can be lazy.
Can't be both.
You can't be both. You're one or the other. And you need to search deep in your soul if you think abortion as a Christian is a good thing.
And I'm guilty of it. I'll be the first one to say it. 10, 15 years ago, I just didn't care either way. I said, you know what? If these poor people, and I don't care what color they were.
You're a father now.
Yeah, exactly. My niece came around and then my daughter came around and I said, how could we actually do this? How could we support this? Or maybe not even support it because I never supported it, but how could I turn a blind eye to it? As a father and as an uncle and watching those precious lives grow and knowing good and well that they were in there long before and had viability long before any of these dates that we've pushed viability to. I mean, our own governor said a year and a half ago, we'll deliver the baby and then make it comfortable and have a conversation with the mother. That is too much. That is far too much. That is going down a road that is satanic. You're going to kill a baby. That's what the Germans were doing. They were killing babies that weren't, that might have Down syndrome, or if you had something in your
a northern was a doctor.
Yeah, if you had like a cerebral palsy in your bloodline, they would end your bloodline. That's what I think abortion comes down to. I think we have the means to avoid unwanted pregnancies these days, and I think it's killing the black community. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's the way I see it, and that's my opinion on the matter.
The statistics do support.
But it's killing the white community too. It's killing a lot of people. It's killing anybody. And I think it's a deeper issue than just abortion. It's the fact that we treat each other and treat human beings as notches on belts.
And look how the mainstream media are dealing with it, as though it's this greatest crime has been committed upon the American people, that this right has been withdrawn. Come on now. There's a lot more to this. Open your eyes, open your brain, and have some moral fortitude. I mean, I'm about to drop an F-bomb, but sort it out.
We've only dropped S-bombs so far. So
yeah.
There's
Keeping
two
it clean.
very scary, I think, responses. Now, I think the first is sitting at this table. I think it sounds like everybody here is pro-choice. Right?
No.
So in the instance of a rape or incest, you would say,
well,
no abortion.
Okay, now answer me this,
I mean,
and I won't ask people this. Why does even incest matter? Now, granted,
Okay.
I know it's morally wrong, but if two cousins or two brothers and sisters decide that they're going to do that,
It's not a smart thing to
then
do,
that's their
right?
decision.
Okay. So what you're saying is, in no instance should an abortion happen.
Let's not go down the pro-life and pro-choice, because those are two tags that we've been told to follow.
Absolutes.
Yes, they are, but it's not an absolute. It's not an absolute problem, is it?
You are trying to ride a fence now.
No, I'm not.
Are you pro-life or are you pro-choice?
If you're going to make me make the choice, I'll be pro-life.
Okay. Yeah. And so that I can respect.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, that woman's having that child. I disagree.
However, I still have a however. If you're making me make that choice, but if it comes down to rape where a woman has been violated sexually, or we have a threat not just to the mother's life, but we have defamations, some genetic issues, there's some margins of error when it comes to that definition.
And in that instance, you would make her have the abortion.
I wouldn't make, absolutely not.
So
that
you
would be
would
her
let her-
choice. So that is a pro-choice. However, it's not black and white.
It's the same thing.
No, it's not.
When it comes to a life, it is. And I think that's the scariest
Well,
part.
that's
the only slightly scary thing is that there's so many pro-choice people. You guys want the heavy scary one. Is the four of us have very little idea of what sexual assault is. It's easier for us four to sit at this table and say, oh, women are using birth control, using abortion as birth control, than understand that many of us probably here at this table have put women in uncomfortable situations where it was easier to have sex than not to be in that situation anymore.
Yeah, I don't.
And so instead of saying there were 1 million abortions that happened, there were probably also close to 1 million rapes that we are not addressing, that the four men at this table should be arguing over, instead of arguing over whether or not when that choice is available to a woman.
I don't
How
think
do
it's
we
a man's
eliminate those?
discussion either.
It is a man's discussion because we are the primary cause. My whole life, I have never had sex I didn't want to have. My wife can't say that inside of our marriage. If you go home and ask your wife, have you ever had sex with me that you didn't want to have?
Hey, that's a tough question.
I think in hindsight, I can say I've had some I didn't want to have. But I think another thing is women and men are different on this thing. And I think as men, a lot of guys out here, they do look at it as another notches on the belt, and it affects women differently. There's sexual encounters, not rape. I'm just talking just random hookups, maybe in the moment they think it. But later on, that is going to bother them for the most part. Most women, like statistically speaking, the men, it's not going to bother them so much. So, by having this society, be free and do as you want to society, I think that's just one of the consequences we face is people aren't going to be as strong towards their family and their values. I regret kind of, doing some of the things I never forced myself on anybody, but I engaged in relationships that I knew didn't matter and should have never happened. And it caused probably, females more pain than it did me. And now I've got a daughter to think about and the actions I've taken on. So when it comes to the abortion thing, look, once again, if you get raped, you do have the day after pill, and you need to go report that to the police immediately. The problem is a lot of women are scared to do it because of people who do it in positions of power. What we got to do is encourage women to come to somebody, a strong man who she can trust, that's going to go kick his effing teeth in if he touches you. And if the police aren't going to do it, then we need to take advantage of it of ourselves. You know, it goes back to George Floyd a few minutes ago. I get, you know, why there's an uproar about it. And I get, but we're making uproars about this stuff. Why in the hell aren't we making uproars about Ghislaine Maxwell's client list? How is she in jail right now for trafficking women to nobody? Who are her clients? Who are the people at the top of that list that were using and exploiting children for sex? It's things like that. There's backed up rape kits right now in police stations everywhere, backed up that never get looked into. Mm-hmm. That's part of the problem. Why do women want to go report these rapes when they know the cops aren't going to do anything about it, when they know there's a 2-year wait window, when they know that person is in power? So as men, if we want to stop that, we need to start letting the women in our lives know that if something like that happens, if the police aren't going to take care of it, we will. We got plenty of land. We got plenty of shovels. We got plenty of wood chippers. I cannot.
It's so much harder to develop a culture around our men that doesn't create the space for that.
Because toxic masculinity, they are trying to kill off what men are about.
That should be killed off.
Yes.
We should not be sexually assaulting women.
No, nobody should be forcing themselves on women.
But instead of fighting abortion, the men at this table need to be fighting the sexual assault fight. But we find it easier to say, if those women weren't so loose.
No, we can have both. We can have. No, it's not that they're loose.
We don't need to have.
It's both. Not that they're loose. We can do both.
We need to engage ourselves. The same way you said those women need to go find a man to fight that fight for them. That's the fight.
Yeah.
And we don't need to let them come to us. We need to start.
But we also need to know that you don't have to go kill that baby if you make a mistake. That you don't have to go do that. That people will be around. We have a supportive system. That's not the way we have to go. That there are plenty of people out here that will help. And there are plenty of people that will help. But right now, we're all invested into this. Goes back to the corrupted police system that we live underneath. It's corrupted in all forms. It's not just against black people or white people. It's against women. It's against, immigrants. The system is only there to protect the people who control the system. And so until we start standing up and saying, you know what, if you're not going to take care of it, we're going to take care of it. How do you think that the government continues to keep the power that they have? And that's all of it, is because they make examples out of people. They make you step out of line, we'll make an example out of you. Julian Assange, you step out of line, we'll make an example out of you. You know what we need to start doing as citizens is making examples out of people. That's what we need to start doing. Make an example.
We are the ones that vote our sheriffs in.
You can't vote a sexual assault, though. You can't vote that.
We can.
No, you go down the street.
How have we empowered our sheriff's office to investigate sexual assaults?
I'm not saying.
When's the last time we've gotten together the same way we went out and protested Roe v. Wade, or spoke as passionately about that we've spoken about getting more rape kits?
Well, that
should be our job.
We go down an avenue of, and it's something I intensely disagree with, is anonymous reporting. Whether that's to the police or to the press or whatever. As soon as you can't put a name or a face behind an accusation or an allegation.
Yes, the right to face your accuser.
But the right to face your accuser can only happen in certain circumstances. So when you encourage that behavior, you also encourage some very malicious acts of some very deviant-minded people. We all know what we're talking about. It can be the ex-girlfriend. It can be the divorced wife. There's some crazy shit going on out there. So you're looking at opening up a door of anonymous reporting, and I won't follow that because I've seen the damage that it's done.
I think the same way showing up to Black Lives Matter focuses on the police. Men going to the high school and saying, we want to participate and save the next girl. We want to start developing the guys with ties. We're going to start investing in creating a culture where sexual assault is not something that guys engage in.
Reinvent Black Lives Matter, and then we'll have a
We don't
conversation.
have to reinvent it. Black Lives Matter.
Reinvent Black Lives Matter, and then we'll have a conversation.
Black Lives Matter gets reinvented as you come in. When
It
you
doesn't.
come in,
The problem is you've got
speaking.
Yeah, but you've got
change how
a
we do it.
history now behind Black Lives Matter and a narrative that does not forward your cause.
But it's coming
you
from
can
the
change
media
it.
that we don't trust.
I hear you.
You can change that
that's
narrative.
that knife edge. You know,
I
we're
don't
all
trust
screwed.
the media. If you don't trust them,
Hell no.
then why are we listening to them?
Then we should work together on that. We've
But
gotta get
I
you
would
there.
say reinvent Black Lives Matter that is inclusive of everyone.
I can't do it unless
I
those
can-
listeners here
I can-
start including
I can
themselves.
read you the mission
They've
statement
got to
now,
show up.
and it is all inclusive.
You've got to show
Yeah,
up.
but the problem is that whole narrative has been shot down.
There's no narrative. It's written in black and white. You can read the mission.
Yeah,
statement.
no, you
Show
can-
up.
Anyone can make a mission statement. What I'm saying is,
But you're saying that you're choosing to believe the media, then what this organization has written down and said.
but the Black Lives Matter tag has been associated with Antifa, rightly or wrongly. It's been associated with
because of the media.
And here's the
well-
other thing. I cannot identify Antifa. I think I was at the beginning of this. I have never met an Antifa.
Not a one.
If you don't show up, we might end up with them. Because I need you to be like, there he goes. There's Antifa.
Well,
I've gotta get you
I think
guys
the point Simon. I think the
involved.
point that Simon's trying to make is people like us who dive into this and
Yes.
people who understand this and understand the nuances. Yes, we've got no problems coming to support. I think he's speaking about the rest of the people out there that are engulfed by the mainstream
We
media
need
that
them
see
too.
these things. But that's why they're not going to come out.
well, we need you all to come out and say, "Hey, I've been
Hey,
over there. It's
they're
not-
okay.
Then they're going to call us Uncle Toms.
Who?
I'm just
Listen,
kidding.
well, number one,
I'm just kidding.
we had a little bit of that discussion because it's hard to get to any point of progress without being called something.
right, but the beef.
You've got to put your neck on the line.
I don't think
and
the
speak the
BLM
truth.
tag is something I can put my neck on the line for because of its historical baggage. Rightly or wrongly.
Check its pulse, is what I'm saying. Before you declare it dead,
I'm not
Show
it's- I'd struggle.
and check its pulse.
I would struggle
with the
to
people.
wear a BLM shirt because
Too
I
far,
think it's
yeah.
too divisive.
Too far.
For me, it's too far.
Show up.
Yeah.
That's.
You
I'm
know,
not
I'm-
asking you to. I don't want you. I don't want you to go full force because you may show up and go, these people are crazy. I don't want any parts of this. But I need you to show up. I need you to make that judgment after you've spoken with Bridget. I need you to make that judgment after you've been involved in the chalk paintings and step back and look at little kids writing love on the wall and decide.
Oh yeah, I'm not knocking. I wasn't knocking
No,
that.
no. But I
to that extent.
I don't mean to bring it up as a knock, but what I need you there to feel what that event felt like that day. And then to go back out and report that. And I need that for the NAACP. I need that for the Democrat committee here in Franklin County.
Yeah,
I
see
need you
that-
to come and
this
show
is,
up
but,
and
the-
check
but
the pulse.
these issues and these organisations are really what I'm polarised against.
Yes.
I'm polarised against them.
And that's as our activism is to show up in those spaces too.
You know,
Why we
the
went to tea
same way
parties.
we are about these conservative groups. But one
Now,
thing
I
that-
don't view myself as a
Well,
conservative.
one thing Darnell and I will do is we form our own opinion. We've been to the Freedom Network. We've been to the school board meetings.
Yeah.
We've listened, and then we form our own opinion.
They're good people.
Yes.
No, I'm
We
sure
need
they
to-
are.
We need those same people at the NAACP. We need those same people at Black Lives. They are welcome and invited. And some of the things they have to say about what we're doing wrong are right. And we can't see it unless they show up. Some of the things we're saying are right, and they're not going to hear it unless they hear it from us.
Yeah.
That's the divide we've got to get over. We've got to get people.
If that's the case, then you've got to break away from that. In my mind, and this is coming from narrative, from experience, you've got to be breaking away from that Marxist ideology, because
They don't
And
teach Marxism.
Can I bring somebody in and ask them to read the letter of Karl Marx, or then to ask them to
The philosophy of Karl
describe-
Marx is way too
Right.
complex
And
to have
once you
that
start
reading.
giving me the philosophy, a lot of times most of us will be like, "Yeah, I don't like that either."
No, well, you
So some of
you
it is,
would.
I need your definition.
The definition is so complex, and that's a very easy. That's a very easy thing to say. Explain to me what Marxism is. You know what? Well, if I say anti-capitalism, I mean that's a cheap shot.
But now it feels like the boogeyman.
But,
Those
but
guys
now
are
I'm hearing
Marxists.
that
What are
narrative
Marxists?
where if I'm the white guy who isn't complying maybe with or agreeing with what you're suggesting, I'm now the boogeyman. Now I find that as equally offensive.
we don't find
be-
we don't- we're saying-
because
Yes, and I
be-
think I may have to agree with you.
because the member at large and somebody else called me, oh, that's the boogeyman. You're the boogeyman.
No,
I said, actually, no, mate, I'm not.
No, we don't think that you're the boogeyman. We feel like it's being created. You all are creating a boogeyman.
I think I may have to agree. I think that is a very probable issue and something that has to be faced and overcome. I think there are people who do believe in the man. There's the white man out there that may be real.
Well, I
But
wasn't born in Franklin
once-
County, so
once
I'm
they
not a
meet
white
you-
supremacist.
Once they meet you, I think the fear is most Americans, black or white, have been ingrained in this idea of white supremacy. When I buy
That's a
house,
tragedy.
it is,
But
a
I don't
tragedy.
think that's
But
the
it's
case.
something
I
we
really
can
hope
fix.
it
No, I
isn't.
think it's class supremacy. At
It's-
the end
it
of the
would-
day, it's class
Yeah.
supremacy.
But
I'd
it's
be
something
horrified
that's
if that was true.
fixable. It's something that is fixable. It's
Everything
something
is
we
fixable.
constantly- Yes,
Everything is fixable.
but we've got to be together.
Well, and from my perspective, and the reason I support you two gentlemen, I do 100%. I think you all have great values. You come from a good home and a good family. I don't support BLM, the organization, because I think and believe, and to my knowledge, are corrupt at the very top, which is the same reason I don't support the NRA. Same reason, like I said earlier, I don't support wounded warrior vets, which is why I don't support the United States military as a combat veteran, because they are corrupted at the top. Now, I support the local people around here in the militia that want to protect our community. I support you two gentlemen who are standing up for the black community. I support the guy down the road who wants to own a gun, whether he's in the NRA or not. I support his rights to do so. So,
Let's stop tagging them.
I don't want to be under labels, and I don't want to be associated with any kind of organizations that I think are corrupted. Will I show up to y'all's meetings? Absolutely. I'll show up, and if y'all invite me out and let me know when, I'll come. I'll listen in and see what y'all have to say. And for the most part, I'm probably going to agree with you on a lot of things. I think the thing we're going to disagree on is the cause of the problem. Until we can figure out that we're on the same team and we're not fighting against each other. But, to go and support Black Lives Matter, I understand why people aren't going to do it, because they have that perception of at the top it's corrupted. Just like there's I don't like supporting the Goodwill because they're at the top corrupted, because the guy who runs it makes like $600,000, $800,000 a year. Now you go down to the Salvation Army, the CEO of that makes like $60,000 a year. So I'd much rather support, the Salvation Army. I want to localize it as much as I can, and BLM isn't local. Brian and Darnell are local. That's what I want to support.
Well, BLM
is local.
It is, but it's also
Our
national.
BLM.
It's y'all's BLM, but I think
Forget the national. I will support you in not
but that's
supporting
but
the
that's
national.
but that's why it's going to be difficult to get anybody else out there, because that association is going to be there.
Right.
And
Even
that's
if
the
it's
problem.
false, and that's what we're
Even
fighting.
if it's false, even like,
if it's
toxic
false.
masculinity might be false, or white supremacy in these areas. Different things are vilified, and I get it. We get vilified, for just being white by the media at times, and everybody goes through it. And I'm not pretending like we understand what you all have been through or anybody else, because we all have different experiences. But at the end of the day, I want as few ties to anything that's led or funded not in this town. I would rather give my money to you all than donate it to Black Lives Matter, where it's going to go to some office in DC and redistribute it out to Detroit or the pockets of somebody living in the beach house. I would rather send my money to the Darnell and Brian Foundation than Black Lives. And I think that's
Please don't send us any money.
I think we don't want those 87,000 IRS agents coming after you. But I mean, and I think that's where a lot of the people.
Come see how fundraising is done. And I think seeing it is the belief.
Well, yeah. And like I said, we'll come
forget the
see.
media, come see it. you are welcome at any.
I'd love to know. I'd love to know the routing of the funds.
It's going to be a short conversation. You will absolutely love it.
That'll be good.
It will be a.
Well, so have y'all gotten any of the money out of the millions and millions that was donated over the last couple of years? Does that money come back down to you all?
All of the money I have donated, I've seen what it's turned into.
I'm talking about the national organization. So
I've
essentially,
never donated. I don't know how to donate to the national organization. I don't.
So
see
it's
any
kind
purpose
of
in
like
it.
taxation. You know, you take your money and it's getting sent off, and you have no idea where it's going. And I think that's one of the hiccups a lot of people might have as well.
We know where all of our
I think we know where all of it is.
So if all your money is staying local and you're not associated with the national, then why still have the name? Why not say, well, we're Black Virginians for Franklin County?
Because that simple statement that Black Lives Matter
I think that's something we can all agree on, though.
is right. That's the.
Well, I agree.
that is
we can agree with the
absolute
premise.
starting point.
We can agree with the premise, but
That's where we
it's
started.
still tied to the national.
But
And
we
I think
just start with that premise, and if we say, okay, we can agree on that premise, then what else can we do in Franklin County? We can also agree all lives matter. We can also agree that
Yeah, but let's
policing
start.
needs to be
Let's
changed.
also start off with that, because I think when you say, "Well, we'll start off with Black Lives Matter," I think you've already divided.
we have,
That,
because there are
you
some
know-
people who do not believe that.
Well, there's also some people that are offended by that. Mm-hmm. All right. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, it's true. But why would you be offended if somebody came in and said, "My kid's good"? Why would you?
No
go,
problem.
Hey,
but why are you putting a racial tag on something that should apply to everyone?
because there's a disparity in how Black lives
That disparity can be corrected in other ways.
We don't care which ways, as long as we're working on those ways.
Yeah.
You may have a way that we're not thinking about, but we've got to have you there to help us think about it.
fair point.
Come on out, listeners. You are all invited.
It is
an
a fair
open
point.
organization.
It is a fair point. I mean, I'm not. It's a powerful argument that you presented. I still am going to struggle with the kickoff being Black Lives Matter.
And I tell you,
And that's not a racist statement from my part at all, because I find it too inclusive.
part of
And I don't think that's objectionable or me being racist. I just think, no, mate, I can't quite get on board with that, because
it's a
we all
scary
matter.
space. It's a scary space, I think, on the other side of the table. The people, the white folks, I think, especially, who have invested in Black Lives Matter, have found that they're not as welcome in their homes anymore. Thanksgiving gets more uncomfortable. The things that people would say as jokes, that they've now met some of those people that they no longer find funny, now make their family members uncomfortable when they call them on those jokes. So now all of a sudden, investing in this anti-racist, space has now made these other spaces less comfortable. So some of what we're asking, I know, is a very heavy ask.
oh yeah.
It is.
I mean,
it is
I
difficult,
struggle with it, but I'm telling
it
you
is.
up front.
It's worth the struggle.
But if you don't address that, you're gonna exclude a significant amount of people, because I'm not just the guy that feels it, and I've got no skin in the game. All right, I've got no
Until we
skin in the
don't.
game.
Until we don't. Look at Martin Luther King's approval rating when he was living compared to now.
Oh.
Black Lives Matter is going to be the same way.
I hope it is, but for different reasons.
I hope those reasons become significant enough that we act on them inside the Black Lives Matter organization.
I would say I would wish you success in that, with the understanding that you've expressed. It's a very powerful argument. I just cannot get on board with that tagline, and I think it's to your detriment that that's how you're going to continue to present it. Because I think there's a better way of doing it. I don't know what that better way is.
Either.
I wish I knew the better way and say, listen, this is how we can really do this.
Yes.
But I think if we stay tight as a community,
Yes.
and not fall into the mainstream media or the political divisiveness, and just stay away from that, I think we'll be in a better place. I mean, the fact that we're sat around a conversation, sat around this table having a conversation
I think
of this magnitude.
I think this is the first step. I mean, it's things like this need to happen. Like and here's the thing about it. Like Simon alluded to earlier, local TV stations, media stations, they're not going to sit down and they're not going to cover conversations like this. They're not going to air them. They're not going to show them. They're just not. And I felt, like I said earlier, it sticks in my stomach when we lost y'all's first episode. And, then I reached back out to y'all and you said, yeah, same thing happened with a local news channel around here. And they never brought you back on to redo it.
They did not.
You know what I mean? And
that's just rude. That's rude.
It was also scary because it was very similar.
You got edited.
There was a hope that I believe there was a hope that we come on and we're crazy, like, tear things down, you're racist, you're terrible. And then we go, you know what, there's some reasoned things behind it. And you go, uh-oh, And
I got a lot of friends joke to me about it after I told them, I was like, man, we lost the episode. They said some stuff on there. You don't know. That's absolutely. I'm not afraid to come on here and say anything. I think my reputation backs that. I've had 75, 80 episodes right now. I'm going to say my frame of mind, but I respect you, gentlemen. And I respect your opinions. I respect what you do in the community. And I want your voices to be heard. Now, we had no expectations of coming down and sitting at this table tonight or the last time of agreeing on everything. We didn't. But we also found out that we do agree on a lot of things, and we do agree on a lot of principles, and we can find a common ground a lot easier than we can nitpick at the things we don't like.
Yes.
So, tonight is a first step in that direction. Maybe we don't know what the next step is going to be, or if your organization decides to go a different route and change its name and bring other people in, or if it doesn't go that, whatever way it goes, we're not going to figure that out, as you said, until we sit down and have these conversations. And it's not just us, like anybody out here listening. If you know somebody, just, reach out to them and speak to them, but actually reach out to a black person,
and also,
a black, not a white liberal.
Careful. You got to be careful with that advice, because again, like me being able to say to you that the problem with George Floyd is that he had his Fourth Amendment constitutional rights. It took a lot. Like, I'm a third generation college educated person. Like, that is not something that happens.
I'm a first generation. I know. So let's, where's the privilege at?
It is a huge amount of privilege, but I also know my privilege hung by a string.
Y'all earned what you wanted to earn.
I didn't earn it.
Your family earned it.
My grandfather happened to live close enough to a black college that he could use his GI Bill. He was denied access to Virginia Tech and had to go to Radford later on. So he knew he couldn't go anywhere he wanted. My father attended a historically black college. Like, these things had to be in place.
Our grandmother was able to attend because she was valedictorian of her class.
And they sent the top person. Like,
but you know what?
The string that got us here is so thin.
But without all of that, I think your family, your grandfather and your father would both have found other ways to be successful because they've got that drive inside them. So whether they were afforded that opportunity to go to college or not, whether they were let in, whether they were denied, they were going to find a way to succeed because it's something inherent in us. We don't all have it, but we have to recognize when we do, and we can't let the ones that don't bring us down to their level.
But I don't know that I would have been in the position to talk about the Constitution the way I have if everything didn't align the way it did.
Yes.
That's history.
Otherwise, I'd be sitting out there
just
like everyone else going, that thing I saw was racist. Yeah. And that's the best description I can give. And as soon as I say that, the white people who go, I want to be an ally with you, but you can't go throwing that thing around. You can't go throwing racist around. I can't. You can't. Once that gets on me, I'm stuck.
You can't use that moniker for every argument.
You can't.
You can't.
If I hadn't spent time studying the law, taking coursework in that, because I had a master's degree and I was allowed to take coursework in it, if that hadn't lined up, I couldn't have this conversation. And so you can't have this conversation with just any black person.
You absolutely could. You can have it if you're passionate enough about it. Our good friend Amos, he doesn't have any kind of education at all. Dropped out of high school when he was 15, and he probably understands and knows people better than anybody on the planet. And you don't need that education to do it, especially in today. You can go online and read a lot of these things. You have to be motivated. You gentlemen are motivated. What you have to do is start getting other people motivated. We have to get other people motivated.
About what we're motivated about. If you were having the same conversation about boxing, I would be a terrible person to be on here. I could go out and learn about it, but I'd be absolutely.
Most people don't want to. The bread and circus. The bread and
Well,
circus.
they enjoy the things they enjoy. Like one, I'm saying that because I really enjoyed the boxing episode you did with the MMA fighter.
With Brian or Steve?
Brian.
Brian, yeah, I
Yes.
loved him, man. That was great.
So I bring that up because when you go out, the audience members, you can't just go, I'm going to go find the nearest black person and say, hey, answer this question. Because you do have those questions. But there are black people who are willing to. And most of the time, you're going to find them as part of organizations.
No, that's what I say. Go find the person that is involved in those
Yes.
organizations. Don't just go ask a random person.
Yes.
Because even random black people in this county and a lot of, they don't care.
And well, it wouldn't be random, but it'd be somebody you'd be comfortable with in
yeah.
most cases. And a lot of times, sometimes we feel the need to keep the comfort level of our friendship going as opposed to talking to you in truth and honesty. So sometimes you're going to have to go find somebody who's...
Honest conversations have never been that easy to establish with
not.
strangers. You know, I mean, we've had our disagreements at
Yes.
school board meetings where I've been cussing
How
you out.
long
and it's
it
like,
took.
you mother... you know, it's been going on.
And I almost remember like from the beginning with the monuments, like that accent. I'm glad I didn't know you were a rugby player because like the moment you said that, like somehow you got bigger. And I was like, oh my goodness. I don't know if I would have argued so much if I'd
This
seen
man
you like
can
this.
break bones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that immediately shattered a image that I think your voice and your accent allowed you to make some communications to me that I might not have listened to otherwise.
Right.
And
that does open doors. It
does
also
open
gets me in
doors.
trouble, you know, because now I go, oh, you're that guy on that Appalachian podcast that swore like a sailor on the so-and-so, so-and-so. So, yeah, I mean, you know, no getting away from it now.
We've all
Thanks,
got
Billy.
our pieces. Yes. And thank you again. Yes.
Well,
for-
yeah, I
for
think
having us.
it's a good place to stop because we're at like 3
Holy
hours and
smokes.
6 minutes. The good part about this is I think we could go on for another 10 hours and another 10 hours. I think we need to get y'all boys on again, maybe once every 6 months or a year or something like that, just so we can kind of touch base back and see where we're at. And in the meantime, shoot me a message and let me know when you have a meeting. Try and come out there and just sit around and just see what people have to say. Because like I said, at the end of the day, it's you all I'm putting my faith and effort into, not an organization. But if we can somehow find a way, whether that be by changing the name or allowing people to understand that you all aren't associated with the top, whatever we have to do, maybe we'll figure it out. But this is step one right here, is letting people know that you can have these difficult conversations, these contentious conversations. You can come in here, sit down, drink some beers, eat a steak, and all understand that we're on the same team. We just have to figure out how we're going to navigate this course together. And, y'all know me, at the end of the day, the less government, I think the better off we do. So, but that's a whole nother show in itself.
That's abundantly
I'd
clear,
still like
Billy.
to add that we're still trying to meet with the militia, and we were uninvited from the Freedom Network. I knew I wasn't going to bring that up.
I don't know, because I think uninvited feels strong.
Oh, that sounds like Prince Harry and Meghan, and they were uninvited from a... Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds awful.
We didn't make it in time we were hoping to set up a booth at the Freedom Rally and
Oh, the Patriot Network rally.
and do a kind of ask a liberal, like we'll open up conversations, and we didn't make the meeting in time to get approved for a booth, and so we'll show up. I did last year. I just kind of came.
Yeah,
in my
no,
Black Lives Matter shirt.
I saw you last year. I was in disguise. I just thought I wasn't allowed to talk. My accent would give me away.
It would have, and I've got this weird face blindness. If you change,
Oh, you're not going to say we all look the same. Please don't do it.
not unfortunately, like literally everybody. And I think that's part of what makes my marriage so
Family
nice.
members.
Brad
Coming
Pitt
home to a
says
new
that.
wife every day.
Brad, that's a Brad Pittism.
Huh?
He has the same face blindness.
I wonder. Huh? That's good to know that there's somebody
There you go.
else. But like, I'll be watching a movie and somebody will change clothes, and I'm like, who's that character?
Will you wouldn't mind if I throw in a plug?
No, absolutely. Whatever y'all want to plug.
The Franklin County NAACP is having a electoral candidate forum for all candidates running for office in Franklin County on September 22nd at the Pig River Center at 6:30. It's going to be a meet and greet, and all the candidates running for any office in Franklin County were invited and are still invited to attend. Also, Bridget Craighead is having a family braiding class for foster children, parents of foster children, to learn how to do hair for all different hair textures and types. And this will be on October 10th at Angle Street, 5 Angle Street in Rocky Mount, Virginia.
Where's Angle Street?
I have no earthly idea. I think it's right there behind.
And it's at 12 noon to 2. I'm just looking at the flyer. Sorry.
Is that her place of business by the library, right in the back of the library?
It might be. I don't know where.
Is that considered Angle Street? I'm not really sure.
You know what? It's a good thing we got Google Earth right here, so we can pick it up and let people know exactly where we need to be. And you actually, unfortunately, you need a license to braid hair, so you have to pay the government money to be able to, to be able to do something like that. So that's just another cog in the wheel of the government suppressing people and stealing their money when they have absolutely, like, why do you need a license to braid hair? If you can do it, you can do it. If you can't, you can't. And if you can't do it, I guarantee you're not going to get any repeat customers. So why do you need like if I go to a barber and I got a license here on the wall and he completely screws up my hair, what's the point in going to you? I can go to this guy down the street. Well, I don't have a license. The hair looks great. What's that license do for you? Nothing. It's just
Nothing.
It's just the government taking more money. Actually, 5 Angle Street is... Oh, yes, it looks like it's actually behind...
So it's right next to the library.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's right on the back of the library.
Yeah, that's where it is.
Well, if everyone's going to make a plug, I know the Patriot Network rally is actually this Saturday on the 24th. And I think that's up Naff Road somewhere.
And we should be there in the morning to ask, randomly. We're not setting up a booth. We are respecting their... but we will be available.
Polite conversation. That's everybody's First Amendment rights. And there's... how dare the Patriot rally even think about denying First Amendment rights, which is exactly what the Patriot
I
rally
might
is
be
about.
jumping the gun.
I don't want to say that at all.
We did miss an interview, or I guess they said we had to go through an interview process.
Yeah, they had some kind of interview process set up. We hadn't met that requirement yet. So I
think they set they
for
set their booths up and planned that site. If memory serves me correctly from last year.
We just won't have a booth. We were absolutely welcome, and they suggested, come on through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's some folks there.
Time.
I know some of the folks there that from last year that did speaking. They were
drop some names.
Oh, I'm not going to drop some names. There's a chap that has a fatwa on him. I can't recall the dude's name. But he's a former Muslim that has converted to Christianity. Can't remember the guy's name. Anyway, apparently a very, very interesting speaker. But he has a fatwa on him, a bit like Salman Rushdie. And I'm like, well, we know what happened to Salman Rushdie a few weeks ago. So, he's in trepidation, I would say. But he has some very interesting, from my understanding, what he has to say about the Muslim faith and some of its contradictions with Christianity and their Quran and all that good stuff. Interesting chat. Yes. So, yeah, definitely worth listening to. He's a national speaker. Other than that, I know nothing.
I don't believe that for me.
Roger that.
Simon's got his ear to the streets.
To the streets.
You know it.
We may have given you 2 episodes. You can split in half.
You know what?
Week off.
I have thought about that simply because as long as it went, I thought, for the sake of giving my wife a little bit of break, we've been trying to talk about finding ways to get me more time to spend with him. I might cut this up into 2, but it was such a phenomenal conversation. I had a blast as I did the last time. I can't thank you, gentlemen, enough for reaching out and actually coming out and stepping up. And
thank you.
Yeah, we can't wait to have you on here again. Like I said, every 6 months or so, we should get together and try and do a show and just kind of catch up on where the community's at. And I hope people that are going to be listening for you, gentlemen, understand that this county isn't full of a bunch of slack-jawed racist hillbillies. That we have a lot of people in here that really do care about the community.
Yes, and
we really want to see the community thrive. And I think as soon as the sooner we can get away from that stereotypical narrative for both sides, I think the faster and sooner we're going to be able to make Franklin County our battleground.
And can I throw it a step further? I mean, I'm planning our next visit. But, if you all have any questions that maybe you want anonymity, send them to Billy.
Yeah.
Message him. We'll answer them.
Yeah.
Don't blame the English guy.
That's not a problem. And
Hey, Billy, hit save.
I'm going to hit save right now. I'm actually going to hit it, save, and share it. I did it last time. Simon, Brian, Darnell, thank y'all so much again, and I can't wait to do it again.
Right on.
Thank you.
Bless you.